Okay, good afternoon. For today, I'm going to discuss about the theories of learning as part of our session one in the course Facilitating Learner-Centered Teaching. So we mentioned last time that understanding a learning theory will help you in facilitating a class, in facilitating or in ensuring that learning will take place while we are teaching. So I presented the three major learning theories by the names of behaviorism, cognitivism or cognitive constructivism, and lastly, we have social constructivism. And from these three big or major theories, we have six theories that emerged from these three major theories. And these are social learning theory, social constructionism, experiential learning, multiple intelligences, situated learning theory and community of practice, and lastly, the 21st century learning skills or the principles behind the concept 21st century learning skills. Now, what do we mean by these theories? And what are the pedagogical implications when you apply the principle, let's say for instance in classroom, when you apply the principles that are within this learning theory. So let's discuss them one by one. So let's start with behaviorism. So on your screen, it says, behaviorism is a worldview that assumes the learner is essentially passive, responding to environmental stimuli. So this was proposed and developed by Ivan Pavlov and Edward Thorndike. Now, what do we mean by passive? So when I say passive here, it means that the learner is someone who responds to the environmental stimuli. So let's say, for instance, you are placed in a classroom. The role of the teacher there is to provide activities, to provide classroom activities, okay? And the work of the learner, okay, classified as passive, is to respond from these activities. So it is believed here that behavior is shaped through positive reinforcement, through feedback, through practice, and repetition. Okay? Therefore, when you adhere to the theory of behaviorism or principles of behaviorism theory, you believe that there will be a change in behavior depending on the type of environment you provide to your learner. So like if you would like your learners to learn about nature, of course you need to provide or to expose your learners on materials, on objects, or concepts that relates to protecting the nature or protecting the environment. So that's what we mean by behaviorism. So it adheres directly and very clearly to the principle of SR, or otherwise known as stimulus response. That if you have the stimulus, the tendency is to respond. Okay? So that's what we mean by behaviorism. So let's say, for instance, you would like your learner to understand the principle of essay writing or the steps to essay writing. Now, how would you know if that learner gained something or learned something using the behaviorism theory? The way to know that is to test, okay? To test the learner in order for you to know if there's a change behavior or if there is a change in behavior, comparing what he is at the beginning and what he became in the end. Okay? So that's what we mean by behaviorism. So dito, nagkakaroon ng mga uh, pagbabago. And it should manifest. It should show. Okay? And the strategy to be used by the teacher here, I repeat, is to prepare the environment. So you have the learner in the middle, at the center, okay, surrounded by different stimuli. Okay, that's your task as a teacher under behaviorism theory. So what are the assumptions of behaviorism? First, Principles of learning should apply equally to different behaviors and to a variety of species. Okay, so all principles, they should be the same. Okay, they should be common, even if there are different behaviors. Okay, even if you expect that there will be different responses, and that's expected based on the principles of learning which we have studied. Okay, you provide the same environment, and then you would see how these people would respond, would react. So, like when you implement your plan, you use the same strategy in the classroom. Okay, you use the same principles. Okay, even if you have 30 learners. Now in here, expect that there will be different reactions from your class. Next, learning processes can be studied more objectively when the focus is on the stimuli and responses. I repeat, your focus is on the type of activity that you provide, the type of environment that you provide, plus how they will react to that. Ngayon, kung walang reaction din sa mga binigay mo, then maybe that type of stimulus is not something that is interesting for the learner. Okay? So when saying stimuli here, it involves the surrounding, it involves the teacher, it involves everything, the external factors. Okay? And even those topics which you discussed in your class. That's what we mean by a stimuli. Now, responses, this will come from your learner. Okay, that's the assumption of basic assumption of behaviorism. Another, internal processes tend to be excluded or minimized in theoretical explanation. Why? Because under behaviorism, you need to see a change in behavior. Like that's what we assume, or that's the assumption on number 4. Learning involves behavioral change. And when I say behavioral change, it's not only about attitude, it's about what you have learned. You should manifest what you have learned. That's the principle or the assumption of behaviorism. Fifth, organisms are born blank slate. So if you know the concept about tabula rasa, ayan. When I say blank slates, it means that as you grow old, as you expose yourself to this stimuli, little by little, nadadagdagan yung blank state na yan. Like it's dot, until such point that you reach a high level of learning, that blank slate is already filled with dots. Okay? So that's why we say organisms are born blank slates, because this blank slate is like the human mind. It's zero, and then once you gain the experience, once you expose yourself into the environment, into different stimuli, then you learn something. That's learning. That's why a child who is already in grade 6 is expected to be more skilled than those in grade 3. Okay, that's common. That's commonly assumed. Okay, because he already gained more experiences. He was already exposed to wider environment, I think. Okay, and more activities compared to those who are in grade 3. Okay. Sixth, learning is largely the result of environmental events. So meaning to say, learning takes place depending on the type of environment the learner is in. Okay? So that's what we mean by behaviorism. Let's move to the second major learning theory, and that is known as cognitivism or cognitive constructivism. So this emerged, okay, in the late 1950s to 1960s. So it believes here, kung kanina blank slate or yung principle ng tabula rasa, for cognitivism, it says here that human mind is a black box. Okay, it's a black box. Why? Because human mind here is assumed to be involving or consisting of different mental processes. And all you need to do is to activate. Okay, the view here is people are not programmed beings responding to stimuli. Kasi ito kinontra niya yung paniniwala ng behaviorism. So under behaviorism, ang paniniwala, you are the learner, you are put into a place, and then you will learn depending on your environment. But the view of cognitivism is different. Okay, cognitivism theory, or the cognitive constructivism theory, states that people are not programmed, because it says here, just like black box, learning is internal, that even without manifesting, okay, even without showing, there is learning inside the mind. Okay, so if you are adhering to this EV, you do not assume that learning is not happening when they are not showing, they are not manifesting. You believe that it still happens, and it happens in the mind. It's internal. Okay? Learning is a change in knowledge. So kanina, a change in behavior. For cognitivism, there is a change in knowledge. So it's more of something abstract. Okay, yung behaviorism, it should be seen, it should be observable. We need empirical evidence. But in here, learning is a change in knowledge. But then again, if you would like to test this insights, this change in knowledge, of course, you need to evaluate whatever type of evaluation you would like to have, depending on the type of learning you are examining. So that's the view of cognitivism. Kaya cognitive, it's in the mind. Yung kanina behavior, it's more on producing what you have learned, manifesting what you have learned. So this cognitivism, from the word cognitive, it's in the mind. Okay, so that's the second major learning theory. Now, how do we apply cognitivism inside the classroom? So these are the strategies which you may use when applying the principles of cognitivism. First, classifying or chunking information, like what we are doing in our class. We do not introduce a big idea immediately. You need to have the sub-steps, okay? Plus, for the lessons, they are sequential and divided into chunks. Like for one entire school year, there are different lessons, but you are discussing about the same subject. Okay? If it's about biology, hindi agad-agad yung big idea na biology. No. There are subtopics that are needed to be discussed, and it should be in chunks. Kasi nga, that's how the human mind processes everything. Mas madali na intindihin yung mga bagay kapag step by step, topic per topic. Okay? Next, linking concepts. Again, it's mental processes. So therefore, your activities should be about inviting learners to link concepts. Like, nag-analyze na sila, nag-interpret pa sila, nag-reason out pa sila. Okay? Okay? Again, concepts, these are abstract, kaya nga internal ang cognitivism. So it's one activity. You may invite your learners to link concepts like hero, the word hero, link it to bravery. How are they connected? Ayan, ang mga tanungan. These are types of activities that we could use for this theory. Next, providing the structure or the framework. Nagkakaroon sila ng visual map. Okay? Like, before starting a lesson, you need to state the objectives. Ito ang gusto kong maging kayo sa dulo. So, meron silang direction, meron silang mapa, may structure, merong outline. Okay? Yun ang matututunan namin for this day. So, from beginning up to the end of the session, yun ang nasa isip nila. They are guided with that outline, with that structure. That's why it's better that before starting a class, you need to aside from stating the objectives, you need to present the outline. Okay? Yung mga topics na i-discuss mo isa-isa. So they would know, okay, where the discussion is going to. Okay? It's very important under cognitivism. Next, provision of real-world examples. So that's self-explanatory. Discussions, like lecture. Kasi nga, they have to listen, they have to comprehend on what you are saying, and then they will analyze. Again, it's internal, cognitive. So all of these activities are related to the mind. The activity about the mind. These are activities about honing your mind. Okay, abstract reasoning, interpretation, analysis. Okay, like for problem solving. Okay, for problem solving, you need to use your mind. You have to analyze. You need to use a lot of mental processes. Next, analogies. Again, it's an activity for the mind. Number 8, imagery or providing pictures. Ayan. You will show picture at the beginning, and then how do you relate to this picture? What do you think is the message of this picture? Madalas na ginagamit yun sa classroom. Like, we have the picture interpretation. Okay? And if we have this type of activities, expect that you will receive different responses from your learners because they come from different backgrounds. Okay, do not expect that their answers will be the same. Next is the use of mnemonics. Again, it's activity in the mind. So I'm saying mnemonics, it's a way to for people to remember easily the concepts. Okay, like yung natutunan ko from elementary, for me to remember the different directions, tinuro sa amin, remember the word news, NEWS. So that refers to north, east, west, and south. Madali nga naman tandaan. I have my guide. If in case I forgot one concept, at least I have the first letter to remember. It's a way for me to recall things. Next, we have the social constructivism. So this emerged in 1970s and in 1980s. So it says here that learning is an active, constructive process. The learner himself construct knowledge. Okay, new information is linked to prior, learning is contextualized and personal, individual has own mental models to make sense of his experience. So if you could see, this social constructivism relate a lot to cognitivism. Okay, but again, it's a different theory. But if you're going to compare, mas similar siya into cognitivism compared to behaviorism. Now, when we say learning is an active constructive process, this means that we have different interpretations of knowledge of the world. Okay, na tayo ang nag-interpret sa mga bagay-bagay na natutunan natin, which is actually true. Like if you present a topic to your learner, expect that they will create or construct knowledge depending on their understanding, depending on their experience. That's why it's social constructivism. We create our own knowledge depending on our own interpretation. That's what we mean by social constructivism. So in here, again, pangalawa, it was mentioned that new information is linked to prior, which means that you need to activate schema. So when I say schema, it's prior knowledge. Ito yung kailangan yung matututunan nila ngayon ay connection dun sa dati nilang nalaman. Okay? It's like linking what they have learned before to what they are going to learn at present. So parang successive siya. Connected. Okay? Learning is contextualized and personal. Kaya nga ayun, since we have different interpretations of the world, of knowledge, of concepts, then it should be contextualized and personal. Learning should be contextualized and personal. So we address here individual differences. Okay, we address here the unique way of processing concepts. Okay, because we believe that individual has own mental models to make sense of his experience. So that's how social constructivism works. Okay, so result, there should be a unique learning to individual learners. So that's for social constructivism. Now, applications, how do we apply inside the class? Okay, you apply this through the use of case studies, ayan, sa research. Okay, through the use of research projects, problem solving, brainstorming, collaborative learning or group work, ayan, discovery learning, and simulation. So everything is about personal way or own way of interpreting knowledge. Just like when you do case studies, you will interpret the event using your own knowledge, using your own interpretation. Okay? So this type of activities from 1 to 7 allows a learner to do activities on their own way. Okay? So it's not dictated. You do not provide or program the environment, unlike behaviorism. So in here, they engage themselves into the environment and they decide what to do, how to do it. Okay, it's like letting learners gain the knowledge using their own strategies, using their own mental processes. Okay, but of course, it's guided by the teacher. Like if there are misconceptions, if there are misleading activities or misleading information, the teacher should be there to correct. Okay, from those 3 major theories, okay, another 6 theories emerged. Okay, ito yung mga naging anak nila. We have social learning theory, social constructivism, experiential learning, multiple intelligences, situated learning theory, and community community of practice, and the 21st century learning skills. Now, for social learning theory, the proponent was Albert Bandura. So it says here, people learn within social context, facilitated by modeling, observational learning, and imitation. Okay, and the teacher would demonstrate and then they will follow. Like in dancing, diba? The teacher will demonstrate the steps and then the learners will observe and then they will follow. Again, that's imitation. That's social learning theory. We learn from what we see. We learn from what we experience. Not only see, we learn from what we hear, from what we feel, based on what is in front of us, and from them we imitate. Like for language, diba? It's imitation. Like if you have heard the word, then you've learned the word. You will produce it, you will pronounce it, and then you will use it. Okay, social learning theory. And a reminder here, there should be positive role modeling. Okay, when I say positive role modeling, as social learning theory presents imitation. Therefore, if you want your learners to gain something, you should be a positive role model. Kasi pag na-expose siya sa negative, I mean, not so pleasant environment or role model, hindi matatawag na role model yun, no? Or not so pleasant model, yun yung matututunan niya. Like, where you are, okay, what you see, what you hear is what you become. So be careful. That's why it's always good for teachers to review what they are saying, what they are doing inside the classroom. Okay? Okay, next. The social learning theory and the pedagogical implications. Number one, students often learn a great deal simply by observing. Second, describing consequences of behavior can effectively increase appropriate behaviors and decrease inappropriate ones. So the work of the teacher is to correct. If the behavior is not correct, then you demonstrate which one is correct. Next, modeling provides an alternative to shaping for teaching new behaviors. Ayan, explicit instruction. You will demonstrate and they will follow. Okay, like I do, the teacher, then we do it together, then you do. Ikaw na lang mag-isa until such learn that you have learned this, that you have gained the skill. Next, modeling are number 4. Teachers and parents must model appropriate behaviors. That's self-explanatory because they will imitate. Nag-a-apply dito yung madalas na narinig natin na sa mata ng bata. Okay? Ang mali ay nagiging tama. So we should be, okay, the adults should be, or inside the classroom, the teachers, and then at home, the parents should be good role models. They should manifest appropriate behaviors. Next, teachers should expose students to a variety of other models to break down traditional stereotypes. So let me correct this spelling. That's stereotypes. Again, if you want your learners to learn or to gain something new, then expose them to something new. Kasi nga, they imitate what they see, what they hear, what they feel. Okay? So teachers here should expose the learners to a variety of other models for them to have a different perspectives. Kaya pag nagbigay ka ng example, iba-iba. Na pag nagturo ka ng addition in different forms ng numbers, may 2 digits, may 4 digits, and you do not use the same number. Okay? When you give examples of the types of houses, iba-ibang itsura. Hindi lang yung mansion. Baka kasi isipin ng bata na mansion lang ang bahay, no? So again, provide variety of examples. Next, social constructivism. So this is situated cognition and learning. Okay, this emphasizes the role of context. Okay, that's why we call it social. Specifically, social interaction in learning. Traditional view, knowledge is viewed in isolation. But in here, the modern view for social constructivism, cognition, binabanggit natin kanina, and learning are understood as interactions between individual and the situation. Okay, knowledge is a product of an activity. Okay, like if you immerse yourself into the activity, if you immerse yourself into the situation, then you learn. Again, ang keyword dito is interaction. You need to interact in order for you to learn. That's the basic stance of social constructivism. That's why it's social and then constructivism. Society and then construction of knowledge. So there should be the society. You immerse yourself, you interact, okay, with the society, with people, with the social context, and then you construct your knowledge based from what is present in front of you. Learning is participation and social negotiation. Okay, so what are the pedagogical implications? First, group work, kasi nga, social interaction. So, ikaw, magpapa-activity ka, puro group work. Okay, there should be cooperative learning. So teachers should make sure that everyone contributes. Yun yung madalas na problema in group activity. Expect that some members will not participate. So how to address that? Before starting with the activity, make sure that the roles of each member is expressed, are stated. I mean, the roles are stated clearly. Why? So they would know how to act based on the roles assigned to them. Hindi lang, okay, group one, then you are the leader. Of course, the leader will normally, the leader will be the one to lead and will be the one to assign. Well, that's good if your learners are independent. But for some cases, na alam mong maraming tamad or maraming hindi interested, you assign a task for each member and let the member work based on the description of the role assigned to them. Para may job description sila, that's the point. The use of local instructional materials, or these are the materials in which learners are familiar with. Okay, why? They could relate. Okay, and if you could relate into something, then you'll become interested to learn, okay, to gain something. Next, experiential learning. Okay, what is this theory? It is built on social constructivist theories of learning, but situate experience at the core of the learning process. So, again, we have the mother theory, the social and constructivist theory. So, almost connected with social constructivism about interaction. But in here, you are emphasizing on experience. Okay, kaya experiential learning. So learning is about a meaningful experiences. So Carl Rogers is an influential proponent of these theories, suggesting that learning is self-initiated. Okay, you learn at your own pace. Learning can only be facilitated. Okay, one cannot be taught directly. Okay, so ang paniniwala dito ni Carl Rogers, learning as a teacher, on the process of learning, your work is to be a facilitator. Okay? There is no direct teaching. Like you cannot impose learning to happen. It depends on the readiness, the preparedness, the motivation of the learner. Okay? So your work there is to facilitate. If they are not motivated, then you motivate. If you have an activity and they are experiencing, then you facilitate. And how do we facilitate? You serve as a guide. Okay, you watch while they are working, and if there are questions, there are queries, guide them. Okay, if there are problems, provide possible solutions. Okay, let them realize about the solution. You may ask questions, okay, and then let them realize the possible solution to the problem. So learners become more rigid under training. They will learn if they will train. It's more on hands-on. Okay, significant learning occurs under an environment with reduced threat. So bawal dito yung nananakot. Bawal dito yung nag-impose. You let them work. So again, environment with reduced threat. Okay, so there should be a positive environment. It should be something that motivates. It should be something that is encouraging. Okay, bawal ang Miss Minchin na teacher sa loob ng classroom under experiential learning. Kasi may hiya na sila magtanong. Okay, at pag nahiya na sila magtanong, there will be no learning. Okay? Next, learning is self-initiated. So I repeat, it depends on the motivation of the learner. So what are the implications? Pedagogical implications or teaching implications. Teachers should be sensitive and keen to the history and experiences of the learners. Okay, that's why you need to be keen, observant. Okay, you need to be uh, engaged too in monitoring. Teachers should make sure that they have a feel of experiences of the students so that students would relate. Okay, students would be engaged to ask questions kasi nararamdaman nila na ikaw rin, naiintindihan mo yung nararanasan nila, naiintindihan mo yung activity. Baka na naman mamaya, pa-activity ka ng pa-activity. Nung nagtanong na sila, wala kang maisagot, wala kang maipaliwanag, you don't have any input. They will not be interested. So it boils down to saying that it starts from the teacher. Teachers should apply strategies meant to facilitate and guide students' learning. So there should be no imposition of learning. Like you should not dominate the discussion. Let them work. Okay, your work is to facilitate and guide the students. So I repeat, the strategies are the implications or the possible strategies that we can do under experiential learning. Next, okay, ito sikat na and for sure alam niyo na to. The theories or the principles about multiple intelligences, okay, proposed by Howard Gardner. So what are these multiple intelligences? We have logico-mathematical, linguistic, spatial, musical, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, and naturalistic. The original eight multiple intelligences. So it says here that we have different types of intelligences. Okay? Kaya nga pag daw ang bata hindi masyadong marunong sa math, what you need to do is to discover saan siya magaling. Okay? So ang talino ngayon under multiple intelligences is not only about if you are good in science, if you are good in math, madalas kasi yun yung view natin, no? Matalino ka na. Pero pag magaling ka pala sa sports, you can be considered intelligent because that is under bodily kinesthetic. Okay, so multiple intelligence theory requires teachers to use variety of materials and strategies. Ito yung sinasabi nating differentiated instruction. So dito na-involve yun, i-group mo sila, and then each group may iba-ibang ginagawa, but they are working on the same topic. Okay, like you express what you have learned. Okay, what have you learned from this story? State it. Group 1, use a poem. Group number 2, I want you to do an interpretative dance. Group number 3, I want you to make a poster about the lesson, okay, about what you have learned. Okay, group number 4, I want you to write an essay. Okay, group number 5, I want you to create a video. Okay, you do role play, record it, and then it should state what you have learned from the story. So that's how we do multiple intelligences. So last, okay, situated learning theory and community of practice. So drawing from the early theories, John Lav and Etienne Swenger developed this concept. So it says here that learning is not situated. Okay, it is relational and negotiated character of knowledge. So within the community, effective learning occurs. So you need someone in order for you to learn. It's not situated. It's not in isolation. Learning is not situated. We have mentioned relational. Okay, when I say relational and negotiated, you deal with the environment. You deal with people. You deal with external factors, and then from there you learn. That yun ang paniniwala ng situated learning theory. And when we say community of practice, the role of the community here is very important. Within community, effective learning occurs because that's what you see around. Okay, that's what you see in your community. Therefore, you will be interested to know what's happening in your community. Okay, concepts of communities of practice. Learning is fundamentally a social phenomenon. Knowledge is integrated in the life communities that share values, beliefs, language, and ways of doing. Since you share common beliefs, you share common traditions, share common practices within the community, you could relate to what's happening around. Diba? So that's for communities of practice. Next, the processes of learning and membership in a community of practice are inseparable. Okay? So therefore, learning and becoming a part of the community is emphasized in the communities of practice. Okay? Next, empowerment or the ability to contribute to a community creates potential for learning. And that is what we mean by communities of practice. It's like you are in the community, you think yourself as a member of the community, and you are obliged to contribute. Okay, if it's about agriculture ang nakikita, then definitely you need to learn about agriculture because you are part of the community. And you will learn better according to this theory because that's what you see, that's what you are in. Yun ang kinabubuhay ng community nyo. So, you will be motivated to learn. Like, kung mapapansin nyo, pag ang hanap buhay sa isang community ay tungkol sa sampaggawa ng sampagita, definitely, this older people will guide young people to learn about sampagita, growing sampagita, or selling sampagita, paggawa ng mga sampagita na binebenta. That's learning still. Okay, and last, the 21st century learning skills. For the 21st century learning skills, the goal here is to make sure that learners acquire the skills they need in order to survive the present day. So ano ba ang present day? Ngayon kasi more on technology, more on communication, more on digital, okay, digital age. So it says here that transforming the goals and daily practice of learning to meet the new demands of 21st century characterized as knowledge and technology driven. Ayun, binanggit natin kanina, the 21st century skills. So since we are in the 21st century, which is the digital age, therefore, what we should learn, what we should be teaching has something to do with the digital and connected age. So development of core subjects, knowledge, media literacy, critical and systems thinking. Kaya nga sa mga courses na in-offer ngayon, hindi nawawala yung ICT, learning about computer, media literacy. Lalo na ngayon online class, mas. Okay? Kailangan matutunan yan. Yung mga features, paano pindutin, gamitin. Okay? And you know how to work using this online platforms. Group learning, ito yung mga strategies, thematic projects, inquiry-based collaborative work to address world issues. So again, this is what we mean by the 21st century learning skills. So it's a theory which states that learning should focus on what we need at present. Okay, the 21st century. Communication skills, becoming a critical thinker, becoming global. Pag nag-isip ka, it should be global. Ayan, kasama sa mga 21st century skills yan. So when you say global, it's like you consider one topic not isolated in one country only. Kasi pag binuksan mo ang phone mo, you experience the world. Okay, you go around the world, you travel the world. Okay, that's what we mean by that. It's part of the 21st century. So you should learn that everything is globalized. Okay, so again, these are the activities that we need to, or that are suggested for the 21st century learning skills. Group learning, thematic projects, inquiry-based collaborative work, okay, to address world issues. So that's all for today. I hope you have learned something about this theories of learning. So just remember the three major learning theories: behaviorism, cognitivism, and social constructivism, and the six theories that emerge from those. So have a nice day. Goodbye.